this video, I'd like to delineate a little on the Jericho group's connections to the Roundway experiment. Indeed, in my own personal experience, this is best embodied by my encounters with a Frankist psychiatrist operating out of the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility, which holds entrances to the catacombs of the Roundway experiment. It's interesting, this individual is Dr. Peter Cohen of Devizes Police, who is himself a very patronizing individual and operative for the Jericho group through a sub branch known as the Levy group. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, Dr. Peter Cohen is operative for the Mossad. So it's interesting to consider the amount of influence that Jewish scientists and psychiatrists have over the Roundway experiment. Indeed, these are networks chiefly interconnected with DVD cells, highlighting the cross-configuration between Nazis and Sabbateans. Indeed, the Nazis and the Sabbateans constitute one interconnected network. And indeed, in the Roundway experiment, this takes the form of programmers, psychiatrists, neuroscientists, and doctors who are all working to achieve some sort of splitting of the mind of the mental patient test subjects to be utilized as guinea pigs in time travel, parallel dimension, and other experimentation, as well as the creation of schizophrenic super spies to be utilized by the British, Russian, French, and German intelligence services for future operations. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, there is also a program in the Roundway experiment for the creation of schizophrenic ghosts, whereby open brain surgeries, Soviet style, are committed on mental patients by Jewish and German doctors, attempting to create ghosts that can go out into the community and do what normal people would not do. Indeed, they would do what schizophrenics would not do. It's interesting to consider schizophrenics are not a naturally aggressive network of people. They are mind control programmed, as in the case of the killings of the pensioners in the Southwest in recent years. This was due to mind control programming of a paranoid schizophrenic by the British police at Roundway. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the murders across the country being committed by schizophrenics are being committed by schizophrenics who have been programmed in the Roundway experiment by German and Jewish doctors operating with license by MI6 as part of the Mindgate mind control program. So it's interesting to consider the key specialists are Illuminists of German and Jewish heritage, belonging to networks interconnect with the Jericho group, operating out of the Kremlin's catacombs. So it's all very interesting how this all intersects and how these networks are represented by Dr. Peter Cohen of Devizes Police, operating as the head shrink of Poppy Ward at Green Lane Psychiatric Facility in Devizes, which is on the site of the old Roundway Asylum, which is basically the above ground front for the Roundway experiment that takes place in the catacombs beneath Devizes. There are entrances to the Roundway experiment all over Devizes. Even in the Wiltshire Police headquarters, there are entrances. However, due to severe compartmentalization of the British police, only select few initiates of Moonraker Lodge number 8747 are aware of where the entrances are, even within the Wiltshire Police headquarters. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, These networks facilitate funding through the organ trade, centered around Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop in the center of Devizes, which is a key interlinking organized crime entity run on street level by Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop butchers, networks of the Black House gang, who are Wiltshire village idiots, playing at mafia, and some real mobsters of Kurdish, Pakistani, Bengali, and Turkish heritage. Indeed, all of these networks interlink with larger organized crime syndicates of the Faith of Ishmael, who themselves receive instruction from Jericho group operatives operating through Mossad and GRU continuums. So it's all very interesting to consider how all of this interlinks, and the fact that Devizes contains the Roundway experiment and an enormous cartel, all witnessed and overseen by Devizes police, who run their own baby trafficking networks through interlinking Kurdish mobsters. So it's interesting to consider, where do the babies come from that are utilized in the Devizes police ritual sacrifice, baby necrophilia, and baby cannibalism ring? Indeed, most of these babies are of Middle Eastern and Russian heritage. So this all points to Jericho group involvement and Mossad involvement, utilizing networks of Kurdish traffickers. So it's all very interesting to notice exactly what is going on. Now all of these schemes interconnect back up to Jericho group operations being run out of the Vatican connected vaults of the labyrinthine subterranean Moscow, i.e. the Kremlin's catacombs. Indeed, it's interesting to consider this Vatican link, because the Vatican is now run by Israelis and Turks, who are themselves operatives of the Jericho group. Indeed, the Gulen movement was a key network that infiltrated the Vatican hierarchy, completely absorbed the Vatican hierarchy into the Turkish and Israeli intelligence structures. So it's all very interesting. These are Sabbatean operatives operating for a network of German Nazis and Sabbatean apocalypticists, attempting to implement such schemes as the Project for a New American Century, i.e. Israeli domination over the Middle East and control by the Western cryptocracies of Eurasia. So it's all very interesting to note how all of these schemes and projects interlink back up to the Kremlin's subterranean system and the Jericho group headquarters there, which is all very interesting to consider. Indeed, this crossover between Soviet intelligence services and the Western cryptocracies is very interesting to consider, especially in light of the fact that there were KGB programmers in the Roundway experiment during the Cold War, who were mainly of Jewish origin. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, this was Joseph Goldin's network of mind control programmers, who themselves interconnect to the hippie movement via the Esalen Institute in California. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, this is all interconnected with the organs, i.e. the KGB, and the organ trade through networks of scattered Israeli cells and terrorist networks connected to the Mossad all over Wiltshire and the wider southwest, and in fact the whole United Kingdom. Indeed, there are cells of Israeli Sabbatean operatives and mind control experts operating all over the West Country and the United Kingdom. So these networks are to a high degree involved in the training of terrorist cells, i.e. neo-Nazi combat units, such as Combat 18, and the networks surrounding National Action and the Order of Nine Angles, as well as the National Anarchist Movement's underground terrorist training center in Whitby. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, all of these are interconnecting networks. And indeed, the Mossad are training an army of spies for infiltration into the United Kingdom to harass conspiracy researchers targeting the Jericho group. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the Israeli state interconnects with the defense industry here in Wiltshire and the role of Palantir in coordinating the coming Technate. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, these are very powerful networks that are coordinated by the Jericho group operating out of the subterranean terrains beneath the Kremlin. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, Wiltshire Police Headquarters is run directly by Jericho group operatives surrounding Stern Hirschbaum and various other operatives. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, these are networks that interconnect with the entity, i.e. the Vatican Intelligence Services, which is now coordinated by Turkish and Israeli spies. So it's all very interesting to consider, and how all of this connects to a worldwide organ traffic, which is overseen by Jericho group operatives all over the globe, including the Levy group operative, Dr. Peter Cohen of Devizes Police, who is a gatekeeper for the mental health system's secrets. Indeed, his subaltern is Dr. Peter Crofts, who has a personal dislike of me and disliked intensely what I used to say about a certain ethnic group I'm delineating at the moment. Indeed, Dr. Peter Crofts claimed I am an agent for the Russian government, and I delineated several times about the fact that the Sabbatean Jericho group, i.e. a death cult, are operating out of the subterranean underground beneath the Kremlin and are therefore coordinating the activities of the Russian state. So it's all very interesting to consider. And indeed, these Sabbateans are known for intense cruelty towards mental patients. Indeed, these Jewish doctors have sacrificed several million mental patients throughout history. So it's interesting to consider. Indeed, Hirschbaum is operative for a network of Devizes Police through the Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop, attempting to lure mental patients to Devizes as revenge for Willsey exposing the Devizes ring. Indeed, they intend to lure mental patients to Devizes and sacrifice them in Sabbatean occult rituals designed to bring about the coming of the Sabbatean Messiah, who will supersede vermin known to Carnsfolk as Cassinch or Cassiusnich as the Sabbatean Messiah, and indeed this Sabbatean Messiah will be the ultimate savior. There are theories that this Sabbatean Messiah is being kept in a Sephardic rabbinical school in Jerusalem and is being kept by the Jericho cult for an end of days scenario whereby apocalyptic overtones are basically rolled out, and indeed Project Bluebeam will take the effect of religious phenomenon being projected into the sky. So it's all very strange to consider. Indeed, these networks of the Jericho group are operating in the United Kingdom with the express license of the Crown, i.e. the networks that coordinate the activities of the British Royals. Indeed, the British Royals are themselves of Sabbatean and German aristocratic heritage, so it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, these networks of the British Royals, such as the Lighthouse Network, that wish to give me a lobotomy, are themselves operative for Order of Nine Angles cells, specifically licensed by British royalty through Sabbatean Continuum. So it's all very interesting to consider the false conflict between Nazis and Jews. So it's all very interesting to consider that all of these neo-Nazi networks only ritually sacrifice Hebrew commoners. They never go for the Zionist elites, who are their overarching controllers through such networks as the Mossad, who oversee the operations in the United Kingdom of the Order of Nine Angles and 764. So it's all very interesting to consider how all of this interlinks and what all of this means, especially for the future of Russia, as the Jericho cult had planned a mass extermination of percentages of Russian Slavs as part of the project for a new American century. So it's all very interesting to consider what is going on. Indeed, the GRU are continuing to beam military-grade technology at me on the orders of Sabbatean Satanists of the Jericho group in its overwhelming plot to destabilize my mind and infect me with techno-demons of Yiddish origin. So it's interesting to consider, indeed, I'm being haunted by disembodied entities coordinated by Sabbatean psychiatrists, such as Dr. Peter Cohen, a Devices police operative and gatekeeper for Jericho group activities. So it's all very interesting to note the fact that Mossad are surveilling me for the Jericho group and attempting to destabilize me as much as they possibly can, utilizing my schizophrenia as a resource for programming and destabilization of my senses, and are using the radiation to attempt to destroy me physically also. The voice to skull technology is being operated by Ferris family operatives of the Ugly, i.e. the United Ground Lodge of England, as well as Sabbatean sorcerers. Indeed, all of these networks are interlinking. Indeed, MI6 are highly involved in my targeting as conduits for Jericho group activity. So it's all very twisted and disturbing, and indeed there are a lot of links that need to be considered here. Indeed, the Jericho group are claiming to be from Saturn, so it's all very interesting to consider. This is interesting that the Jericho group claim to be from Saturn, considering extraterrestrial theories on Hebrews and things. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, this organ traffic in Wiltshire is overseen by networks of British intelligence operatives, by themselves double agents for Mossad. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, various American conspiracy researchers have been silenced by neutralization for exposing Israeli illicit operations in their country. And indeed, these Israeli networks, through license from the defense industry, are running a lot of the trade here in Wiltshire in combination with GRU facilitators. It's interesting to consider these interlinking networks and what this means for the future of Wiltshire, especially considering these networks also coordinate rape gang activity with the British police. So it's interesting, all of these networks have in their sights all the young felines of Wiltshire where they wish to rape and sometimes dismember and mutilate. So it's interesting to consider indeed. We are approaching a very interesting time in the history of the United Kingdom, what with the cartel operations coordinated by Jericho group operatives really coming to a head. Indeed, in the psychiatric system, this can be witnessed in the figure of Dr. Peter Cohen of Devizes Police, the Mossad agent, an Israeli spy operative for the Levy Group, which is itself a sub-branch of the alphabet, which is coordinated at top level by the Jericho Group, i.e., the ultimate intelligence operation on the earth. Indeed, I'm going to leave it there now.